What if the very desire you keep hidden in the shadows is the same force that shackles you in the open? You tell yourself it's harmless, natural, even liberating. You call it freedom. But what if freedom isn't the indulgence of every hunger, but the ability to deny it without flinching? Lust whispers that you are in control, that when you reach for it, you are making a choice. Yet, look closer. Every act of indulgence is already anticipated. Every click, every search, every scroll has been mapped by systems larger than you. The impulse you think is private is not private at all. It is studied, priced, and sold. You are not chasing pleasure. You are being led to it. Machiavelli once warned that rulers rarely fall from the swords of their enemies, but from the indulgence of their own appetites. A prince undone not by an assassin's blade, but by his own predictability. And what is predictability, if not the repeated confession of desire? When your patterns are known, your leash has already been fastened. So ask yourself, is this choice yours, or was it designed for you long before you reached for it? The ads that appear, the images that surface, the algorithms that anticipate your weakness before you feel it yourself. Are you still sovereign, or are you being governed in silence? This is the hidden cost of indulgence. Every time you say, yes, you tell the world more about your impulses than you realize. You show not only what you want, but how quickly you break, how easily you bend. And what begins as a moment of private escape becomes the data of your defeat. The leash is not iron, it is not visible. It is woven from habit, repetition, secrecy, and shame. The more you pull, the tighter it binds. The more you convince yourself that you are free, the more you step into the role prepared for you. The predictable man, the man who cannot resist, the man whose downfall can be scheduled. And so the story begins, not with the obvious enemy, but with the subtle one. Not with war in the streets, but with war in your own desires. Because the leash you do not see is always the one that pulls. The hardest, desire begins as something harmless, almost innocent. A glance, a thought, a fleeting hunger that seems to pass without consequence. But Jung warned that what we refuse to govern within ourselves does not disappear. It returns as shadow, shaping our choices, seeping into our behaviors, and eventually dictating our lives from beneath the surface. Lust is not just a desire for flesh. It is ungoverned energy, raw and undirected. And when it is left to roam unchecked, it doesn't serve you. It serves whoever knows how to use it against you. History has always known this truth. In Florence, princes were rarely assassinated with daggers. Their fall was slower, quieter. It came through scandal, through whispers of affairs, through indulgences that stripped them of mystery. A man could build a fortress of stone, yet it was his appetite for pleasure that dismantled him from within. His enemies didn't need to sharpen their blades. They needed only to expose his weaknesses. The predictable man, Machiavelli warned, is already half defeated. Now shift to the present, and nothing has changed except the tools. The appetites that once ruined rulers are the same appetites being monetized today. You no longer need a spy in the prince's bedroom. You carry the surveillance willingly in your pocket. Every search, every swipe, every secret indulgence is captured, analyzed, and sold. The privacy you believe you have is nothing but illusion. Behind the glow of the screen, a marketplace thrives, not of products, but of your impulses. You think you are chasing desire, but in truth, desire is chasing you. Porn platforms don't exist to free you. They exist to study you. Dating apps don't exist to help you love. They exist to condition your attention. Social media doesn't exist to give you connection. It exists to monetize your distraction. These systems don't fight your lust. They cultivate it. They streamline it. They design it into loops, ensuring that what you think is an act of free choice is in fact a rehearsed performance, anticipated before you even move your finger. And this is the trick. Indulgence feels like escape, but it is actually surveillance. Every time you surrender, you tell the system what tempts you, how long it takes to tempt you, and how far you're willing to fall before you resist. You are training the very machine that will use your weakness against you. Your shadow is no longer just psychological. It is digital, archived in servers, waiting to be sold to the highest bidder. The more you indulge, the more predictable you become. And when a man becomes predictable, he becomes governable. Not by law, not by armies, but by his own hunger. You may believe you are choosing, but the truth is more unsettling. You are being chosen, again and again, by systems that profit when you mistake slavery for freedom. This is how desire becomes control. What begins as instinct, if ungoverned, transforms into a chain. What begins as a whisper grows into an empire over you. Until the man who once thought himself sovereign discovers he was never ruling at all. Every indulgence leaves a trace. A glance, a click, a habit repeated often enough becomes a trail. What you believe is private is already recorded in silence, and silence remembers everything. Just as a spy builds his report by noting patterns others dismiss as insignificant, so too does your desire construct a file on you, line by line, until your secrecy becomes an illusion. Machiavelli understood this danger well. He wrote that the prince who is too visible, too easily read, loses his authority before he loses his crown. Power is not sustained by exposure, but by mystery. And yet, lust dismantles mystery. Each indulgence makes your instincts predictable. Your appetites public, even if only to those who know how to read them. To be predictable is to be governable. To be visible is to be vulnerable. Imagine a general preparing for war. His maps are laid out, his strategies designed with precision. But if even one spy delivers his plans to the enemy, no fortress, no army, no weapon can save him. He is defeated before the first battle begins. Lust does the same to men today. Every repetition of the same indulgence is a leak in your fortress. It is a spy's report written by your own hand. Consider the lion. In the wild, he is feared not because he always strikes, but because no one knows when he will. Unpredictability is his edge. But a lion caged and fed daily loses that edge. His movements become routine, his instincts dulled, his roar reduced to background noise. He may still possess the claws, but everyone knows he will not use them. Predictability kills power more surely than defeat. And so it is with modern men. The screen has become their cage, the endless scroll their feeding trough. Each indulgence is not an act of freedom, but a confession. Your eyes betray what excites you. Your pauses reveal what tempts you. Your history displays not only your weakness, but the rhythm of that weakness, the timing of your collapse. The system doesn't need to control you. It only needs to predict you. What is more dangerous than an enemy who knows your next move before you make it? That is the trap of visibility. You believe you are hidden, but your habits make you transparent. You believe you are free, but your predictability has already priced you, already placed you into categories, already stripped away the mystique that made you untouchable. And here lies the quiet horror. When men become open books, they lose the one weapon history's rulers relied upon: uncertainty. A man without mystery cannot command fear. A man who is entirely visible cannot command respect. And once you are stripped of both fear and respect, what remains of power? Nothing but the echo of choices that no longer belong to you. Empires do not fall the way we imagine. Rarely do they collapse in one final battle, their banners torn down by a superior force. Most empires die long before the enemy arrives. they rot from within. Their soldiers grow comfortable. Their generals lose vigilance. Their rulers become distracted by pleasures that once seemed harmless. The stone walls still stand. The armies still march. The treasuries still glitter with gold. But the spirit that built them has already dissolved. Lust, in this sense, is not a fire. Fire burns quickly, consumes fast, and leaves behind obvious ruin. Lust works differently. It does not announce itself. It seeps like fog into every chamber of the palace, into every rank of the army, into the heart of the people. It clouds judgment, dulls ambition, and replaces discipline with indulgence. Ungoverned energy left to drift becomes not a weapon but a weakness. History offers us endless reminders. Rome was not sacked by barbarians at its height. Long before the gates fell, the Roman people had traded discipline for decadence. The citizens, once proud of duty and sacrifice, now filled their days with games, with feasts, with spectacle. Bread and circuses became more important than honor. Pleasure dulled the will of the empire. So when the invaders finally came, they met not warriors, but spectators. The same pattern echoes through every fallen power, not only in Rome, but in Persia, in Byzantium, in the Ottoman courts. Rulers who once commanded vast legions were undone, not by the strength of their enemies, but by their own appetites. They mistook indulgence for stability, forgetting that every empire is built on restraint. Once restraint is gone, collapse becomes inevitable. Look closely, and the same fog spreads through our world today. The empire is not Rome, but the modern mind. Men no longer sharpen swords, they sharpen feeds. Their battles are not for territory, but for attention. And here too, lust plays its role, packaged as entertainment, disguised as liberation, sold as self-expression. The empire weakens, not from bombs, but from distraction. Not from assassins, but from algorithms. Consider the cost. A nation of men, more interested in screens than strategy, cannot resist intrusion. A society more consumed by fantasies than by discipline cannot defend its future. The fog blurs vision until leaders forget the horizon, workers forget their craft, and citizens forget the weight of their own sovereignty. The collapse is not sudden. It is slow, silent, almost invisible until the structure crumbles. And only then does the fog clear, revealing the ruins left behind. This is why lust is not just private, it is political. The man who surrenders to it does not simply weaken himself, he weakens the foundations of the collective. The empire erodes one indulgence at a time, one distraction at a time, until the people no longer need to be conquered. They conquer themselves. If lust can weaken empires, then why does it exist at all? Why would nature place such a powerful force inside us, only to let it rot us from within? The answer is not that lust is evil. It is not a curse. It is not even an enemy. It is energy, pure and raw, waiting for direction. The tragedy is not that men feel it. The tragedy is that men do not know what to do with it. Carl Jung warned that what we repress does not vanish. It returns in twisted form. Lust repressed without understanding becomes guilt, shame, obsession. But lust recognized and redirected becomes something entirely different. Fuel, the same fire that enslaves the distracted man, becomes the crown. Of the disciplined man, history is filled with those who understood this secret. Monks withdrew from the world not because they despised pleasure, but because they knew how to convert it. Their solitude, their silence, their celibacy were not suppression, they were laboratories of transmutation. The energy that would have scattered into indulgence was refined into vision, discipline, and spiritual power. Their influence stretched across centuries not because they indulged, but because they transformed. Warriors, too, knew this truth. The training ground was not merely about building muscle or skill, but about taming instinct. The man who mastered his urges could master the battlefield. The one who fought not for appetite but for legacy carried a fire that no indulgence could extinguish. Discipline was not the absence of hunger. It was hunger converted into will. Even Machiavelli, often accused of cynicism, understood the principle. A prince does not rise by avoiding desire, but by mastering it. If he cannot govern himself, how can he govern others? Self-command was the foundation of sovereignty. Without it, the crown slips, not by force, but by folly. Look at the modern world, and the lesson is the same. Men today believe lust is release, when in truth, it is potential energy. Every craving is a spark. Left ungoverned, it burns the man. Down, directed, it builds his empire. The tension you feel is not punishment. It is power waiting to be shaped. This is the secret of transmutation. You do not kill the fire, you forge it. You use the pull of desire to pull yourself into creation, into focus, into strategy. The very energy that once dragged you downward can be channeled upward into art, into work, into mastery. What once distracted you can now define you. Imagine the man who learns this. He feels the same hunger others do, but he refuses to leak. He writes instead. He builds instead. He trains instead. And with every act of redirection, he sharpens. People sense something different in him. They cannot name it, but they feel it. The stillness in his eyes, the quiet certainty in his voice. The presence of someone who does not waste what others squander. This is why restraint is not weakness. It is the alchemy of kings. To take. What enslaves most men and convert it into the very source of strength is to step into a realm beyond temptation. The fire does not vanish. It grows, but it grows under your command. And here, the story begins to turn. For if lust can be your leash, it can also be your sword. The same energy that once predicted you, exposed you, weakened you can be transmuted into the force that makes you unreadable, unshakable, untouchable. This is the path of power. Not denial, not indulgence, but transformation. Power is not loud. It does not announce itself with noise, with excess, with constant displays of need. Power moves in silence, and its sharpest edge is mystery. Machiavelli understood that unpredictability was not just useful, it was dominance itself. The man whose desires are known can be manipulated. The man who cannot be read becomes dangerous. This is why the disciplined man radiates something different. He does not need to speak of his strength. He does not need to advertise his worth. His restraint speaks louder than indulgence ever could. Stillness becomes a language. Silence becomes a weapon. His absence more powerful than another man's performance. Look around today, and the contrast is everywhere. Most men have made themselves endlessly visible. They scroll and post and expose their impulses for anyone to study. Their desires are mapped by algorithms, their cravings revealed in their habits. Their weakness made public through their need for constant validation. They call it expression, but in truth, it is confession. The more accessible they become, the less valuable they are. The rare man is the one who does not perform. The one who is not caught in the theater of endless exposure. The man who can sit still while the world clamors for attention. He does not chase. He does not reveal. He bends others not by display, but by gravity. People lean toward him without understanding why. They feel a current around him, a pull created not by noise, but by absence. This is the return of mystique. Restraint is not suppression. It is the deliberate refusal to let others measure your fire. It is the decision to remain unreadable in a world that demands constant clarity. The more you resist exposure, the more your presence grows in weight. You are no longer a man on display. You are a force to be considered, a puzzle to be solved. a presence that unsettles because it cannot be placed. Consider the kings of old. They did not walk among their people every day, offering glimpses of their lives. They appeared rarely, strategically, cloaked in ritual and distance. Their mystique was cultivated, and it created fear, awe, and respect without a word spoken. The same principle holds true now. A man who does not reveal himself too easily commands more influence than 1,000 who broadcast every detail. And this is why mastery of desire is not only personal. It reshapes how the world perceives you. Lust makes men predictable, visible, and weak. Restraint makes them unreadable, magnetic, and sovereign. It is not that they are detached from life. It is that they govern life on their terms. Others sense it. They cannot manipulate what they cannot predict. They cannot move what will not bend. This is masculinity redefined, not loud bravado, not constant indulgence, but the stillness of a man who is no longer leaking his essence into every temptation. He is rare because rarity itself has become almost extinct. He is feared because unpredictability unsettles those who expect compliance. He is respected because his presence is not accessible on demand. And so the shift becomes clear. The man who masters lust does not simply gain control of himself. He regains the very currency of power that empires are built on: mystery. The return of mystique is the return of sovereignty. And the one who cannot be read is the one who cannot be ruled. Every man arrives at a fork in the road. On one side stands the throne. On the other, the circus. The throne demands silence, discipline, and the refusal to be predictable. The circus requires only that you perform, indulge, and remain endlessly. Available, one path crowns you with sovereignty. The other chains you with applause. The world has already built the circus. It thrives on noise, on exposure, on endless confession, disguised as self-expression. Here, men are paraded not as rulers of themselves, but as performers desperate for recognition. They mistake visibility for influence. But what is influence if it can be bought, sold, and replaced overnight? The circus makes men common, and common men are always powerless. The throne, however, is not given. It is reclaimed. And it is reclaimed. In the smallest of moments, the moment you deny the temptation that has owned you, the moment you sit still when everything in you aches to perform, the moment you withdraw your energy from the marketplace of desire and direct it back into your own fortress. That silence is not emptiness. It is sovereignty returning. Machiavelli understood this distinction. He wrote that power does not belong to those who indulge, but to those who resist being read, being predicted, being ruled by appetite. The prince, who indulges too freely, becomes a subject of his own impulses. The prince who governs himself commands more than his court. He commands the narrative of his life. And so, you must decide. Will you remain in the circus, leaking your power through every repetition, every indulgence, every predictable reaction? Or will you ascend to the throne, where restraint becomes strategy, where silence unsettles, where your absence carries more weight than another man's presence? The circus will tempt you because it is easy. It feeds you attention without substance, pleasure without depth, applause without respect. But every indulgence is a price paid in sovereignty. Every performance is another chain on the soul. The throne is harder. It requires the discipline to say no when no one is watching, the strength to walk away without explanation, the patience to endure silence without seeking escape. But from that silence rises the rarest of powers, mystique. And mystique bends the world in ways noise never can't. So the choice stands before you now, not in theory, but in practice. Lust is not just a personal struggle. It is a system of control, a game of attention. The moment you withdraw, you break the game. Your withdrawal is rebellion. Your silence is resistance. And your discipline is the throne they fear you reclaiming. The circus or the throne. Performer or sovereign. Predictable or unreadable. The decision will not be announced. It will not be marked with applause. It will be written in your habits, carved into your presence, and revealed in the power you radiate without speaking. And when others wonder what changed in you, they will never understand the simple truth. You stopped playing their game. You left the circus behind. And in that silence, you returned to the throne.